All right, we are going to refresh, review, and replenish some of our basic questions. I guess I would call these as a set of questions the canonical questions. Everybody that practices any of these things has to come up with a catchy name. Quantum something, nano something, meta something. So everything needs like the Cartesian questions, you know. Then you get these huge debates over who authored them. But as you drift into your A-game, high-quality learning trance and let your unconscious mind take control of your learning process, you'll be thrilled to proceed with the canonical questions. They're kind of like my brand of potato chips or something, kettle chips, canonical questions. Comes from the logic of the church. The church actually had logical systems and systems of argumentation and debate, and so this came from canon law, and the canonical form was a form that certain arguments were supposed to be put in. So I'm not sure if this would exactly conform to canon law, but just for the heck of it, I'll call them the canonical questions, just so we know what we're referring to, just to put a little categorical tag on it. And if you want to call them something else, let your unconscious mind find something even more glorious and suggestive that will thrill you in many ways, in all of your chakras, all the time, as you're drifting off to sleep later. What is this an example of? Okay, what is this an example of? That's the basic, that's like one of the basic Big Daddy canonical questions. What is this an example of? Then we can kind of refine this. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? Whatever comes up. Well, what does that mean to you? So you get that person to unpack the meaning of what they're talking about. Some. Gotta have this car, man. Really? What does that mean to you? You know, you could say, well, great. Glad to hear you really want that red car. Yeah, well, I want the red car. What does that mean to you? I haven't thought about it like that. You know, stuff comes up. What is important about is another one. Similar to what does that mean to you? What is important about something or other? You know, I have to watch this show. This is my show. I've got to watch this show on TV. Well, what is important about? You know, I didn't know there was anything important. What do you mean by that? Why are you asking me these questions? What's important? Yeah, what's important about it? You know, why is that so important to you? Then an interesting, very interesting question. Here we get a lot more sophisticated. What if we remove that element from the system? What do you mean? What if we remove that element from the system? Yeah, like what if that show? What if Friends never happened? I mean, what if they never made that show? Those people never got together, and there was something else that just never existed. How would your life be going right now? I mean, what would happen if we took that element out of the system? Just removed it, and then, by the way, you can do some really nice trance work, really nice hypnotic trance work involving disappearing certain things, and then having the subject imagine what it would be like if that element simply had never existed in the first place, and let reality reshape itself around that not being. How do you think about that belief when you apply it to yourself? How do you think about that belief when you apply it to yourself? Well, God, man, if I were to remove things from my flow of attention, my flow of thinking, and reconstruct reality, well, I'd be amazed. I'd be truly amazed. The sleight of mouth question: how would you know if that weren't so? How would you know if that were not so? Judgment, judgment, judgment. Opinion, opinion, opinion. Well, how would you know if that weren't so? How would you know if that weren't so? How would you know if that weren't so? So, what does that explain? Good question. What does that explain? God, Bubba just got a new red Corvette. What does that explain? What do you mean? Bubba's got a small penis, and, it's always been uptight about a small penis. We got a big red car, a phallic symbol. Oh, okay, got that. How does this affect the way the world is? Okay, how does this affect the way the world is? So then you can ask sort of a globalizing question. How does this affect the way the world is? This belief, this object, this action, this interpretation, how does that then generalize out and have an impact on the entire world, or the environment, or the context around you? What is this a reaction to? What is this a reaction to? So you could just take an event, something's taking place, there could be something kind of suspended in time, and you could say, well, what is that, or what was that a reaction to? So you're then asking more about the context of causation, or the context of response and responsivity. What is this an expression of? The Sistine Chapel, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Wow, what was that an expression of? And then you can really start thinking much more deeply into, well, what brought that about? What was that? What aspect of people, or what aspect of the mind was that an expression of? Or what aspect of an age was that an expression of? Good one here. What is this evidence for? What is this evidence for? Okay, what does this prove? What is this evidence for? And also you could say, what is this evidence against? What does this disprove? Or what does this lead us to not conclude? So what does this lead us to conclude? What is this evidence for? What does this lead us not to conclude? What does this direct us toward having a stronger belief, or direct us toward weakening that belief? Wonderful philosophical question. What is this an aspect of? What is this an aspect of? What is, well, the development of certain technology was an aspect of a culture at that time that allowed that technology to develop, and that was simply one aspect of the totality of that culture. So you might say, well, what is that an aspect of? Then might suggest, and it does imply, a much larger unspoken whole that you might then go look at. So when you ask someone, what is that an aspect of, that causes the mind to start searching around and questioning, well, what is the entirety, or what is the system of which that is an aspect? What is this a concealment of? A wonderful one. What is this a concealment of? Certain histories, certain accounts fail to mention certain things that other people remember all too well. What is that a concealment of? Or attention can be focused in one area when the intent is another. Subterfuge, camouflage. Camouflage, wonderful word, the phenomenology of camouflage. So what is this an example of? What does this or that mean to you? What is important about whatever? What if we remove that element from the system? How do you think about that belief when you apply it to yourself? How would you know if that weren't so? What does that explain? What is this a reaction to? What is this an expression of? What is this evidence for? What is this an aspect of? What is this a concealment of? Got it? Okay, plug those in.